over this exercise and even do the exercise for day number 2, really starting to drill in, to start to understand what it takes to start shifting some things. Heather is in the house from Maui. She's a New Yorker in Maui, Manila, the Philippines. We are international again. I love this. We had people on yesterday from Sudan, from the UK, from Canada, from all over the world, and it's a beautiful thing. Okay, so hope you are doing well. This is going to be fun. Let's have some fun here. I've got a few things I want to talk about today and about today's prom, but I want to make sure that y'all got dialed in for yesterday, the whole idea of why and the purpose and understanding that money is a result. It's not a purpose. And that what we need to do is understand and figure out what our purpose is. Figure out the why first, because the profits come from the purpose. The wealth comes from the purpose, and start doing it from that perspective. So, hello. Let me know when you're coming on board. Say hi. I see Chelsea. Happy Tuesday. Happy Tuesday to you too, Chelsea. So good to have you on board. All right. So the prompt today, day number 2, the prompt today was, there are no participation trophies in the wealth creation game. So here's the deal. What we are looking at is this. Look, if we want to build wealth, if we want to build an affluent life, if we want to become an affluent entrepreneur, if we want to be financially independent, if we want to be financially liberated, if we want to have those things, then we can't stand on the sidelines. We can't sit in the stands. We have to get in the game. We have to do some things. And I get it. At some point we might be in a situation where you go, but Mel, I don't understand investing. I don't understand money. Money's complicated. I understand that. And in fact, listen, here's the reality of it. The financial services industry, they make a whole lot of money making us believe that becoming wealthy is complicated. If they can make it look complicated, we have to rely on them. They have a bias towards that. Now, I'm going to tell you. Now, they serve a phenomenal function, and we need them. But we need to understand where their position is. Their position needs to be to our right, to our left, to help us navigate. They are not there at the controls. They're not making the decisions. And that means that who's making the decisions in your financial world? Who's making the decisions? Because if it's not you, we have a problem. We're going to have a different conversation around it. So bottom line is this, is that if we truly want to build wealth, if we truly want to live an affluent life, if we truly want to scale our business, if we truly want to do things that are meaningful and impactful, we can't do them in the stands. We can't do it on the sidelines. We have to get in the game. You will not get a participation trophy. I am sorry. There isn't anything that's going to get tossed out to just because you happen to be around. We have to take action. So here's what I see. There are 3 things that we all need to have, and we'll talk about a few steps and things, and I'd love to hear from you some action steps that you're going to do, that you may do as you move forward. But there are 3 things we need to have to really start to move our wealth, our affluence, our world forward. The first thing is to get a vision. In fact, I had a conversation today with a dear friend, and here's what we were talking about is that they have this vision for their life. And my question for you is, do you have a vision for your life? Do you have a specific, detailed vision for your life? Something that is emotionally compelling, something that you truly understand, something that pulls you forward, something that isn't some generic thing like, I just want to be wealthy. That doesn't mean anything, but something specific. Something where you sit back and say, I want to live here. I want to do this. I want to have this impact. I want to live on a beach in a nice house with a beautiful relationship. I want to drive this kind of car. I want to be able to donate to these charities. I want to donate this much to these charities. I want to be able to do these things. Specific, because here's why it's important to be specific. Because until you're specific, we can't figure out what the price tag is on that lifestyle. See, too often we're thinking about our income, which is really important, don't get me wrong. But it's only important to the extent that the income is going to help us fund a machine that's going to give us the lifestyle we want. So what we're really playing to is the lifestyle. But in order to figure it out, we have to have a vision for that lifestyle. We have to have a vision for that in a way that we can price it out. In other words, do you want to travel a lot? Does that mean that you need $20,000 a year to travel? Does it mean you need $40,000, $10,000? Do you have kids that need to go to college and you want to pay for their college? Do you have a mission that you want to serve? You want to get water into third world countries or something like that. Or you're like my dear friend that I talked about in the last live, Allison J. Prince, who wants to give women the possibility of independence, financial independence. And so she's making microloans to them based on what she's selling. But she figured out her why. She got clear on the why, and then she created a vision of what that could be like. So the first thing that we need to have before we start to move forward and take action is understand what that vision is. And if you have a vision, then we can price it out. Now, there's a second thing that we need to have. Because the vision is in the mind. The vision is in the mind. Conviction is number 2. We have to have the conviction of our soul, of our hearts, to move forward. The conviction to know that we're going to make this happen. The conviction to step into it. In fact, when it comes to your purpose, when it comes to why you're on this journey, you have to have the conviction to that, the values that are going to move you forward to make that happen. So if the vision is in the mind, the conviction is in your heart. And when we marry the mind and the heart, it's going to pull us forward faster. But still, if I have the vision and it's vivid, it's emotional, it's compelling, and I have the conviction, I have the desire, I have the hope, I have the yearning, I have all of that, it's still not enough. We need one more thing. So vision, conviction, and then action. See, the vision is in our mind, the conviction is in our heart, the action is in our feet. See, here's the thing. When I work with people, I mentor people, high-level people and people financially to help them build this. And I always tell them, don't tell me what your values are. Don't tell me what your conviction is. Don't tell me why you're doing this. Because I'll see by watching your feet. See, the actions you take will demonstrate how much conviction you have. So you tell me that you want to have this type of a relationship. You want to have a loving relationship. You want to have a relationship that is meaningful. You want a relationship where the two of you are cohesive. Are you doing the things to make that happen? Because if you're not, you can talk about it all day long, but it's never going to be a reality. It's the same thing with your money. We can talk about being wealthy. We can talk about making money one day. I have someone in our family his head is in the clouds all the time. He's got all these grand plans, but he never does anything. So we have to start out with vision, conviction, and action. Those that know me, that have worked with me in the Affluence Blueprint, they know, because one of the first things we do is we spend the time focusing on the affluent vision. We take them through a specific affluent visioning process to make that happen. And so we can get a vivid, real, emotionally compelling vision in place so we can get their conviction ironed out so we can give them the actions takes. And so today's post, today's prompt is all about the actions. It's all about the actions that we need to take. So realize that that's the key. Now, what keeps us from taking actions? What keeps us from taking actions? Well, there's one of a couple things that will keep us from taking actions. One is we're not sure what actions to take. Okay, we're not sure what actions to take. Well, I'm hoping that over our time together, and with my show, the Affluent Entrepreneur Show that's coming out, with our time together, and some of the other stuff that I'm putting out, that you're going to get some of the actions that you need to take. So I'm hoping that we can solve that. But what holds us back is, one, that we don't know what actions to take. Two, we're unclear on where we want to go. And if we're unclear on where we want to go, we don't know what actions to take. Okay? So we need to make sure that we're clear on where we want to go. We need to get clarity. Now, I will tell you this. I've been known to say, and I believe it, that clarity comes with action. It does not come through contemplation. If I sat there and just meditated on what my clarity, I'm probably not going to get it. Now, there is some benefit to sitting in the silence for a period of time, but at some point, you got to try something. There's a story, and I don't know if it's true or not, but it was before General Schwarzkopf was a general. He was actually working for a general, and they were in a meeting, and in the meeting, they were trying to make a decision between two options, A and B. And when they looked at it, they were going back and forth. And this is a decision that they hadn't made for months, and they've been vacillating back and forth on it. And General Schwarzkopf's boss at the time, he says, I know what we need to do. And everyone in the meeting turned and looked at him. And he says, we need to choose B. And they said, okay, B it is. And so they went about their way to go execute on option B in that case. And here's what happens. He goes back, and General Schwarzkopf says, permission to ask a question, to speak frankly. And he said, go ahead. He says, how did you know that option B was the right thing to do? And his boss looked at General Schwarzkopf and said, I didn't. But I knew until we made a decision, we wouldn't know or get any more information to make a better decision. So we had to make a choice. So I chose B. And this is the same thing for us. When we talk about money, we're trying to figure out, do we go into this kind of investment? What do we do? What's our next step? And we're afraid to make a decision because we're afraid to make a wrong decision. The problem is that we're not making a decision to set a path. We're making a decision to get just a little more information so we can make a better decision. Every decision is just a point on a line. Until we start putting enough points on the line, we don't have a line. So every decision we make is simply to get more feedback, a little more information to make a next better decision. And so hopefully you start to understand that we need to start making decisions. We need to start taking action, not because it sets a path in motion, but it sets us in action. And when we take an action, we can see what the response is, what the reaction is, what the result is, and we can take a better action. Listen, not every step I make, whatever every action I take is the right one. But I know it's the right one at the time, and when I get different information, I can make a better one. And that's what we do. Yeah, clarity activates the universe to help us in our work. Absolutely, Heather, it does. So I got a couple notes I'm going to go through and make sure that we do this, and then I'll hit up any questions that any of you have, and keep rocking and rolling. So we said that we need to have vision, conviction, and action. That there's some things that can stand in our way if we're not careful. But there's a couple things that I think we need to do to get in the game. In other words, to decide we're going to do some things, there's a couple things that we need to have. One, we need to gain knowledge. We need to gain wisdom. We need to gain information. So the first thing is to sit back and ask yourself, and this is one of the actions that I think you can take every week, every month, is what is one book in wealth building, in money management, in business optimization, in any of the things that can scale your income, build your assets to give you a better understanding. What's one book that you can pick up and make sure that you read every week? Because if I can get good information in, and if you want a book list, you let me know. I'll turn you on to some books. Okay. But the fact of the matter is that education isn't going to happen until you take action to educate. So the first action theme is to make sure that you have a rhythm for education. Books, audiobooks, podcasts. Okay. I'm going to pipe my show, my podcast, YouTube. Now, I'm going to warn you, make sure that you're talking to people that are credible, that you can trust, and they're not trying to sell you something. Like I said, I've got nothing to sell. I don't sell investments and all that stuff. So here's the thing. So education, make sure that's one of your themes. What are you going to do each week to get more knowledge, more wisdom, more expertise? Maybe it's subscribing to some blogs so you can read on a regular basis. Some of it you might sit back and say, I don't understand. Okay? Others, you might say, I get it, and it's going to grow. So what's my favorite book on money? This is going to sound really, really interesting. One of my favorite books on money, believe it or not, is Richest Man in Babylon. Okay? Richest Man in Babylon. Okay? It's a parable, but there's some embedded lessons in there that are universal, that are fundamental to wealth building. Is one. David Bach's Latte Factor. I love that. I love David Bach's books. He's a dear friend of mine, and really good. Is another book that you could look at. Tony Robbins. He's got Mastering the Game, Money Mastering the Game. It's a long book, but he's got a shorter version of that book called Unbreakable, I think. So there's a couple books, but I have a list, so I'll make sure that I get you. I'll post a list in my Facebook group or a link in the Instagram, so you can get access to that list. I have a list of books that you can do. So education's one. Skills are another. How did some people say, how did you learn to invest? How did you learn to trade? I did. Unshakable, that was it. How do you learn to trade? I actually traded in what we call a paper account, paper trading. So you can set up a dummy account at different brokerage houses. You're trading with play money, so you can learn about what happens if I buy this ETF, what happens if I buy this index fund, what happens if I do this. And so now I start to understand what would happen. I also get a feel for what it's like to execute a trade. So I would invite you to skill up by trading, but not with real money, with paper money. Okay, I don't want you going out there and just start investing money. I want you to start saying, I'm going to pick this stock for this reason, and this reason, or this index fund, or this ETF, and you have the reasons and you write them down. You know why you're going to pick them, and then you pick them, and then you watch. Now, we have some rules that I teach, and we can talk about those another time. But if the trade goes and you win, I want you to reevaluate and understand why you won. Don't pat yourself on the back. Say you're an investing genius. You're the next Warren Buffett. That's not the case. It could be luck. It could be luck. If you lose on the trade, you got to ask yourself why. What are the lessons? What did you learn? Okay, I did that for a long time. So I would understand. I would make bad trades. I would make good trades. And I would have to dissect them to figure it out. But we need to skill up. Okay? We need to start to get in the game. This is all about getting you in the game. Now that we're talking about skilling up, the next thing is, do you know where you are financially? Okay, so now the other thing that I'd love for you to do, and this you can do on a monthly basis. You don't have to do it weekly. But on a monthly basis, do you know where your income's coming from? How many sources of income? How much? What you can depend on? Where it's coming from? Do you know where your money's going? You know, what are your expenses on a regular basis? Do you look at it? Do you track it? Do you track it on a spreadsheet? Do you track it in Quicken? Do you track it in another software? Do you track it in YNAB? Where do you track it? So if I sat down with you, if I called you up and I said, "Hey there, Jennifer, let me see what your income and expenses are," and you could rattle them off or you could print it off, because if we're not checking the pulse of your financial well-being at least once a month, then we have no idea where we're at. We have no idea where we're going. So we need to know our income. We need to know our expenses. And we need to know what we own and what we owe. Your assets and your debts. Your assets and your debts. In other words, list all your assets out. This is what's called a net worth statement. So we take all the assets, we subtract out all the debts, and what's left over is what your net worth is. And so it's a measure of your wealth. It's a primitive measure of wealth. There's some nuances there, but it's a measure of wealth. And if you're tracking your net worth, if you're tracking how much of assets you have, how much in debt you have, you know where you are financially. So the things that we need to track on a monthly basis that you should be checking, you should have a scorecard. And the Affluence Blueprint members have a scorecard, and on a monthly basis, they're checking income, expensive, assets, and liabilities. They know every time what's going on. And it's that measurement, it's that constant managing and measuring that's going to allow you to understand what's going on. Okay? Because if we're not measuring it, we can't manage it. If we're not managing it, we can't build it. Hopefully this is making sense to you. Okay? Now, I have one last thing that I want you to do. So we talked about, I'll summarize real quick for those that just came on. We talked about it's important to have a vision, which starts in the head, to have the conviction, which connects in the heart, and to take action, which is in your feet. And the actions that we take, first come skilling up or education. So making sure that you have a rhythm to your education, your wealth education, reading books, podcasts, audiobooks, trainings, YouTube, and that type of thing. And then we need to track our money game. We need to know what our income is. We need to know what our expenses are. We need to know what our assets are. We need to know what our debts are. When we understand those numbers, we understand where we're at. When we understand those numbers, we understand where we're at. And that leads me to this one last piece. And this one last piece is this. It's what I call the 1% rule. Okay? It's what I call the 1% rule. What I want you to do, if you're not investing right now, I just want you to shave off 1% of your income. 1%, that's all. It's not a lot, okay? It's not going to make you wealthy, and that's not the purpose of it. I want that 1% to go into a separate account. It can be in a high-yield cash account. It can be in a savings account, but most likely a high-yield cash account. Let's just get it out of there. So every time a paycheck comes in, every time you're making money once a month, I want 1% of it to just go to an account. Here's why I'm having you do this. It's not about the 1%. It's not about the money. It's about building the muscle. It's about creating the habit. Most people don't have money issues. They have behavior issues. Their money issues are a sum total of the habits and the behaviors that they've taken up to this point. They've made decisions with their money. They made decisions with their business. They made decisions with their spending. And in the end, they're where they're at because of it. Now, I don't want you to blame yourself. I don't want you to beat yourself up. But what I want to do is I want to shift those habits. And one of the habits that I want you to get into is regular investing, regular savings, regular shifting around. And I don't want you to go crazy. I'm going to try and push you to get to 20% or more. But if I turned around and said, let's start at 20%, you would look at me cross-eyed. I don't want to do that. I want you to start with 1% because all I want you to do is start exercising the muscles. And if we go 1% this month, Then I'm going to ask you to go an additional percent next month, an additional percent next month, an additional percent next month. So over a year's time, we'll get you to 12%. But at 1% at a time, one, you won't be feeling it. It's not going to be a lot of money. Two, you're going to exercise that muscle. You're going to get in the habit. Three, you're going to start to see things build and you're going to go, oh, wow, I like this. In all likelihood, you're going to look at it and go, I'm not going to do 1%. I'm going to go to 5% right now. And you're going to jump. Okay? How many are you getting what I'm putting down? This is really important. What we're really talking about is developing the proper habits that are going to make a difference in your wealth, in your business, in your money. And what we need to do is make sure that we're doing that on a regular basis. And I don't want to start with something extreme. So I just want you to use the 1% rule. And then we're going to ratchet up 1% at a time. Now, those of you that are working in a job, okay, those of you that are getting paid a wage because you're working a job, you're W-2, you can do the same thing. Here's what I'd love for you to do. The next time you get a raise, and maybe they turn around and they give you a 3% cost of living raise. So that 3% that you got is 3% you weren't getting before. So here's what I want you to do with that 3%. I want you to take half of it, 1.5%, and I want it to go towards your 401k or into a savings account. The other half you can go spend. Okay? But here's the deal. You're still getting 1.5% more and 1.5% going towards your future. What we're doing is taking small little steps to create big habits that make a big difference in your financial future. It's about shifting your financial destiny one step and one habit at a time. This whole day 2 is about taking small actions that when we do them repeatedly over time, they're going to make a huge difference. They're going to make a huge difference. So that's what I have for you right now for day number 2. It's about taking small actions. Remember what we said in day 2, we said there are no participation trophies in the wealth creation game. We need to get you in the game. We got to get you out of the stands. We got to get you off the sidelines. We got to get you in the game. That means that you need to be increasing your education. You need to be increasing your savings. You need to be taking steps to invest. And you need to be taking steps to track and manage what you're doing. Okay? All I want you to do is find 2 or 3 little things you can do on a weekly basis or a monthly basis. And start there. We're not going to change everything overnight. Okay? So that's what I want to do. That's the game I want to play. And I'd love to hear from you by posting in the comments what habits, what are the things you're going to do? What are the little things you're going to put in place to take action and know that you're moving forward? Let me know for a couple reasons. One, that means you're going to commit to it. And when you put it out in the world and you commit to it, that means you're going to do it. Number 2, we can support you. I can support you. We can have a conversation. We can support the journey. And 3, we get to celebrate your success. And 4, you get to know that you're not alone because we're all with you. We're all doing the same thing. So, all right, let me go back and let's see if we've got any questions before we close out for the day. And then we got day number 3 tomorrow. Stay with me. Hope you're finding this valuable. Let's look at this. Salima, the person, so look up Allison J. Prince. She is, she does stuff in e-commerce. And so, I can post I can tag her in here, but you can find her on the internet, but she's the one that's doing it. So I don't know if she's doing it. She's doing it through a different organization than Kiva. But she is doing it through an organization as far as doing the microloans, okay? Look, I got more people jumping on. Say hello, let me know. Mark Anthony, for investment news, I like Palm Beach Research newsletter. Mark, that is a great newsletter. So, yeah, it's a good one. So, suggest a few simple ways to find an extra 1% daily and to stay disciplined beyond a few days so momentum is created. Mark, you always have some good questions. All right, so here's a couple things. there's two ways to skin this cat. How do we find 1%? There's two sides of it. If you're an entrepreneur, and even if you're not, we can look for ways to increase our income. Look for ways to increase our income and then take the profits from that income and make that the 1%. The fact is that all I need is $200 a month over 30 years at 8%. That's over $300,000 in assets that you build. It doesn't take a lot to make a lot. It just takes consistency. It's not about you timing the market. It's about your time in the market. We got to get you into the investing game to make it happen. So one of the things that you might want to look at is are there things, skills, strengths that you have? There's an exercise that I take people through where I have them list out, if you will, all their strengths and skills that they have. The things that people will come to you and ask questions about, the things that they ask for help from, and look at those strengths and skills. Then in the next column, I have you list out what problems those strengths and skills solve. What problems those strengths and skills solve. Because that then tells you, here's a list of problems that I can solve, and when you solve problems, you can get paid. So now we look at what's the market, the people, the demographic that has those problems. So now I know strengths and skills, this is my sweet spot. Problems that they solve, that's where they can be used and where they can be found valuable. And then who has those problems, this is where I can get paid. And what I would do is first look for a way to start to make just a little bit more money, whether it's a side hustle or a side gig, to allow that to be your 1%. So that's one way to do it. The other side of it is to look at your expenses. To look at your expenses and say, what are things? Look, I got subscriptions that I know I'm not using, just in case I have them in there, and do that. So get out your checking accounts, get out your credit cards. Let's go through them, walk through them, say, are these things that are truly needs or wants? Now, most things are going to be wants. And I can find 1% there in all likelihood. Now, this goes back to kind of like David Bach's the latte factor. 1% isn't a lot, but over time it can add up to a lot. Okay, you can get add up to a lot. Now, Mark asked a really interesting perspective on this. Is how do you stay disciplined beyond a few days so momentum is created? Here's an interesting, I don't know if you remember it when we were in school, when we used to go to school, when we were actually allowed out of the house, when we could go see people physically, face to face, and not electronically, okay? Yeah, this pandemic thing, I'm doing just fine with it, can you tell? Do you remember when we would do subscriptions? We would do fundraising, and each classroom would have like a chart, a thermometer, and every time we would sell magazines and stuff, we would fill it out, and we would be reaching that pinnacle. So one of the things that I would actually do is, if you want to make sure you set your target of what you're trying to create, what would 1% of 1 year's income be? Say you're making $100,000 a year, 1% of that's going to be $1,000. Okay, it's going to be $1,000. So I'm going to put a chart on the wall that says $1,000, and I'm going to start coloring in $100 increments, because what we know psychologically is when we measure it, when we see it, we have this competitive spirit to win. We start to move forward. This was proven actually in an assembly line where they were tracking the productivity of different shifts. So they were running 24/7 shifts. So they had 3 shifts a day, running 8 hours per shift. And they would have shift A, B, and C. And they, on the boards, would mark the productivity of each of the shifts. And everyone's productivity went up. Everyone's productivity went up because they were tracking it, because they were watching it, because they were competitive, because they could see the growth, because they could see the ability of what the fruits of their labor are. So those are some of the things that I would do is make sure that you're tracking it, and I would do it openly. The other thing that I would do is look, I get an accountability partner. Whether whether it's your spouse. If you're in a committed relationship, get the person you're in a committed relationship on board to do this so you can have regular. In fact, I just had this conversation with someone and say, I want you to have regular monthly money dates. You all, if you're in committed relationships, should be having money dates. Should be having regular money dates. Having conversations around your cash. Not how much necessarily, but why. What's our vision for life? What's our experience? What's the richness of life? What does it mean? Why is this so important? All of those things. To be able to have these conversations. Remember, we talked about the fact that people think money's a taboo subject. We shouldn't talk about it. Heck, if we don't talk about it, we can't solve problems. Let's talk about it. So I would create an accountability system with either my significant other, my partner, or someone outside. So they're holding you to it. So you've committed to it. No different than when I was working out at the gym and I had a workout buddy. Because that workout buddy was going to be there, I made sure I was there. Not only, I made sure that I was there early. And my workouts were stronger. My workouts were more consistent. My workouts were more powerful because someone was there with me, pushing me. We were in it together. This is the same thing. We're in a financial journey together. The reason I'm creating the show, the reason I'm doing these 10 days, the reason I have the Facebook group, the reason we're having these conversations is so you're not in this alone. You're no longer in the money game alone. You're in it with me. You're in it with the whole community. You're in it with a whole bunch of affluent entrepreneurs or treadmill entrepreneurs trying to become affluent entrepreneurs. We're all in this together. We're all in this to support each other. We're all in this to grow. We're all in this to help each other become affluent, to become financially liberated, and to do that. So hope that helps. Hope that helps, Mark. Other questions? Let me just see. I'm going to go back if I can without disconnecting on. Heather says, you've convinced me to get back in the game with what I have right now. I know it works. Yeah, Heather, you want to be smart about it. You want to have a strategy. You want to know what you're getting into. First off, if you're going to go back into investing, if you're going to get into investing, we don't invest into anything we don't understand, which means education first. Education first. Okay? And if someone's trying to sell you an investment, you got to ask yourself why. What's their bias? What is their incentive to sell this investment? Okay? But get in the game, make sure you're in the game, and start with education first. Great tip on paper trading. Yeah, I would start with paper trading. Killed it with the last line, Mohammed. I don't know what the last line was, but thank you, man. Unshakable. All right, I think I got it. Let me just see if there's other questions that are coming up. Yeah, let's lift each other up. My gosh, Michael Weaver's in the house. I just met Michael just a few weeks ago. He's doing some amazing stuff in the insurance world with brokers and stuff. So good to see you. Good to see some friends in here doing this. We'll get the book list out. I'll get the book list out and make it happen. Measure, manage, and grow. All right. So here's my takeaways for you. Oh, yeah. There you go. Here's my takeaways for you. Figure out 1 to 3 things that you can do weekly to increase your wealth knowledge, your money knowledge, your money management knowledge, to change your money mindset. So that's book, podcast, audiobook, education, something. What can you do once a week, at least once a week, to skill up? Second, what action can you take to move you forward in an investing standpoint? Well, use the 1% rule if you're not sure. Find 1%, either by cutting expenses or growing your income. Finding a way to make additional money, and 1% that shaves off automatically into a high yield cash account. Just set it aside for now. All we're trying to do is build the muscle to get on a regular habit to make that happen. Number 3 is to evaluate and understand all your income, your sources, where they're coming from, your expenses, where they're going, whether they're wants and needs, what you own, the assets, and what you owe, your debts. You do that this week if you can, and then do it once a month. And then a bonus one, those of you in a committed relationship, establish a money date with the person that you're in a relationship with, and have these conversations around your vision, around your conviction, around the actions, and get on the same page. I get it. It might be uncomfortable at first, but I promise you, first off, it will actually bring you together. Second, it's going to allow you to work together. And as a team, you'll do much better. Okay? So, let's see. Someone just said, a bit off topic. Lori says, a bit off topic. Lori, I love what you do. She's a vet that deals with cancer with animals, and I got a soft heart for animals. I'd like, every time I see a dog, those faces. So, anyways, I digress. You recently mentioned that your wife laughs at all of the things you try to negotiate. Can you name a few non-traditional things that you've successfully negotiated? Oh my God. This is off topic. But I do. I try. Everything is a negotiation, I think, and everything is negotiable. So I have negotiated things like anything from rental cars. Like, we went to the rental car agent. She goes, I can't believe you're even going to, like, hotel rooms. Okay? I consistently will get us upgraded hotel rooms that to the point where they'll even send stuff to the room. But my sense of negotiation is not hardcore. Now, I can be, because I've dealt with it in litigation and mediation. But most of it is this fun-loving kind of carefree kind of thing. And inevitably, they do things for us. But I've done rental cars and hotel rooms. I've even negotiated in retail stores, but it's typically just for fun, not for fun, but I do it in a fun, joking way. And if they can, they can. And I go, and I'll say something. This is like, and I'm certainly not serious. I'll say something weird like, and I get the additional 10% off for good looks and charm. And they laugh and this and that. And you know what? Probably 6 or 7 times out of 10, they'll go, let me see what I can do. And all of a sudden, and like my wife's going, I can't believe you did that. Now, one of the greatest negotiating, now this is something you do negotiate, cars, but that I did. I had a good friend of mine, John, he was on his way to buy a car, and he literally calls me up. He says, dude, I'm going to buy a car, but I've never negotiated a car. How do I negotiate? And I said, here's the deal. I said, how, do you know what you want to spend? He said, yeah, I'm going to pay for it cash. I said, beautiful. All right, cash gives you negotiating power. And I said, do you know the car? He says, yeah, I know exactly the car you want. I said, do you have an alternative? And he said, yes, I do. I said, great. What's the price on the alternative? And he tells me. I said, great. Here's the way to do it. I said, I want you to write the check for the amount that you're willing to spend, but leave the payee blank. And he said, okay. I said, here's what's going to happen. You're going to walk on the car lot. And when you walk on the car lot, the first thing they're going to do is, after they greet you, they're going to say, what kind of payment do you want? See, because car dealerships, just like credit card companies, understand that if they can get you to play the payment game, they can get you to buy things that you shouldn't be buying. Because payments are the way to remove the friction out of the buying decision. If they can get you to see a payment that's comfortable, then you might buy it. And you don't understand the full gravity of the purchase decision. So, what I told him to do is I said, tell them that you don't want to talk about payments. You're not even sure if you like the car yet. So you want to just go look at the car. And right away, I want you to let them know that you already looked at the car. That's the one you really want, but your wife or whatever wants you to look at this car. So let's just look at it first. Once you look at the car, if you truly like it, I want you to go into his office. I want you to take that check out. And I want you to turn it around so he can read it. And I want you to just say this. Listen, I actually like the car down the street. This is what they're willing to give me that car for. And so I want you to slide that check across the table to them. and then say, but if you'll give me this car for that amount, I'll put your name on that check right now and we'll walk out with that car. But if you're not willing to give me that car for this amount, not $1 over, then I'm going to pick up that check and pick it up and show it to them. I'm going to walk out that door. I'm going to put their name on it, your competitor down the street, and I'm going to buy that car. You tell me what it is. He called me up. He called me up. He says, that was so much fun. I just want to go buy another car just because it was so fun and it was easy. So he got the car for that price. So yeah, the idea here with negotiating, and this is a whole different topic, but the fact is that the idea here with negotiating is to ask, but ask in a way that isn't demanding of them. What can you give me? But more asking from the perspective of how can we make this work for both of us? Okay? There are things that you would be surprised. Like look, I've negotiated. They say you can't negotiate at Tesla. I've negotiated at Tesla. Did I get a discount? Nope. I didn't get a discount. But I got a whole lot of other stuff, including the fact that they put a power wall in my house, no charge. It's a matter of how you go about it. It's a matter of how you have the conversation. We don't do it in an aggressive way. We do it in a fun, good-natured way, and and if it works, it works. Now, in high-stakes negotiations, then there's a lot more strategy. There's a lot more posturing. There's a lot more positioning, and when we do that, then sometimes it is a lot more hard nosed. That's the way we do it. But most of the time, everyday life, I mean, I do it for, and I, my wife's constantly shaking her head. But listen, even my son, when he was a kid, I just remember this. We were in a mall one day, and he wanted something. I said, no, we're not going to get it today. And all of a sudden, I hear my son, at the time, he might have been 9 years old, 10 years old. He goes, all right, Dad, I'm going to make you a deal. And I'm going, wait a second. 9 years old and you're going to negotiate with Dad? And he says, well, I'm learning from you. So, but you can do it in a fun way. So I hope that helped, Lori. There's a lot of different things that you could negotiate. The question is, some people will simply negotiate. Others, it's for a purpose. Others, you just asking to see if there's anything better they can do. Really an easy thing to just say, like, we're in the middle of doing some remodel on the house. Man, I am going off on tangents. Thank you, Lori. I'm going off on tangents. This was one of those things that, hey, we got a crack in the driveway. Let's fix the crack in the driveway. All of a sudden, that crack in the driveway turned into, we're replacing the windows, we're redoing the stucco, and I'm like going, how did a crack in the driveway turn into a big chasm crack in my wallet? I don't know. But it did. But all these contractors negotiating with them, a lot of it is just simply saying, hey, can you do any better? What can you do to make it a little easier for us to make this work for you and work for me? And inevitably they'll come back. Now it helps like what I did to negotiate here is I got a couple of bids. So I had a benchmark to work with. And I made sure that the quality of the work was the same, so I could work them against each other, but I knew where I was going with it. I knew what I wanted. I knew where I wanted to be. And so I didn't just negotiate to just negotiate. But I did negotiate to make sure that we hit our numbers. Doesn't mean that we're not over budget already. So here's another fun one. This last one before we close out, and if you have questions, I'll stick around. But negotiating. it was 4th of July weekend, and James Wedmore and I were on our way. We're going to go surfing, okay? And we were driving, and I was driving my car, so we had the surfboards on top of the car. And it's packed. I don't know what we were thinking, that the beaches wouldn't be packed on 4th of July weekend in Southern California. It was packed. And so there was no place to park. And so I see, yes, you do. So I see a boat ramp, where people were like dropping off their boats, and then they would park their trailers and their cars there. And I go, we're going in here. And James goes, You're driving a Tesla with surfboards. They are not going to let you to park your car next to the boats. I said, we'll see about that. And so I pulled up to the parking attendant and we started chatting. I didn't even ask about parking. I started chatting with him about 4th of July, how busy it was, what was it like, has he been, have people been treating him well? And we just started chatting and he says, what are you guys doing? I said, we're going to try and find a place to park to go surfing. And the guy says, I'll let you in. Go ahead and park here. So we got our parking spot amongst the boats so we could go surfing. So those are some stories on the road with Mel. But all right, you guys rock. God, this was fun. I love doing this. So tomorrow we've got another prompt. We got another exercise. It's going to be fun. We're going to keep building on these things. I hope that you're all doing it. Do me a favor. Make sure you're posting your comments because those of you that post comments get added into the giveaway as an entry. So when we do the giveaway at the end, you might get all kinds of different prizes, whether it's Amazon gift cards, Apple Pencils, my book, signed and that kind of thing. So whatever we can do. I want to have fun with you. I want to make sure that we move the needle, the money needle for all of you to make a difference and make it happen. So if you have any questions, do me a favor, post it. Do me a favor also, if you know people that are trying to figure out this wealth game, this money game, let's share this out. Let's let them know that it's going on. Got nothing to sell. This is pitch free. This is just you, me, having some fun, talking money, talking wealth, talking life. Let's get it done. Let's get it done. All right? All right. You guys rock. You guys are a blessing to me each and every day. Thank you so much. And I'll see you on the next live. All right? Cheers.